A jungle hunter gets unhelmeted. Here's your look at the new Diamond Select. This is the Predator PVC diorama statue of the Unmasked Predator. Deep in the jungle, several bodies have been discovered, skinned and hanging from trees. Although who or what could have done this is a mystery. Military covert specialist Dutch and his team are called in to eliminate the threat. But once in the heart of the menacing jungle, they discover something far worse than what they could have ever imagined. The Predator, an alien which has come to Earth with cloaking technology, extensive combat skills, and a desire to hunt humans for sport. This PVC diorama of the Predator is based on his appearance in the 1987 Predator. It is made of high-quality PVC and features detailed sculpting and paint applications. As we ready ourselves to enter back into the jungle foliage, Diamond Select releases another Predator Gallery statue. This one's slightly different than the one that we had to look at before. Before, of course, we look at that figure as we're going to do some comparisons. The first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the Unmasked Predator Gallery statue stands. Stopping the tape measure at the very top of its head, right there, you're looking at the gallery statue of Unmasked Predator, looking at 10.3. He's 10.3 inches in height, and that in centimeters makes the statue 26.3, almost 26.5 centimeters tall. A big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select for making this review possible. We're going to slide over the Unmasked Predator, and we're going to bring in the Masked Predator. A simple swapping of heads, but you can see how different the two look from one another. I do recall when we did have a look at this Predator right here that I mentioned the possibility that Diamond Select simply could just reuse the exact same mold and change it to an unmasked portrait. And while I feel it's not necessarily the case that they were listening specifically to me, they could clearly connect the dots and know that it was a smart choice by simply taking the sculpt that I liked already on this one and just planting it over here with a different head sculpt. And the results, as I said, despite the fact that the base, the body, and most of the statue is the same, changing out the head gives you two distinct, different looks from one another. We shall go back to that other Predator in a second, because certainly want to do some comparisons left to right. But in the meantime, we do have ourselves an unmasked version of the Yautja. You can see, starting first with the base, he is standing on the same groundwork that the other display, the other Diamond Select Gallery statue actually had. The nice stones and some additional semi-gloss. It looks almost like a gloss coat that they put over top of the stones to kind of give it that like wet look. It's really nice the way that they've done that. As I said, there's really nothing that's different between the two. I suppose it probably would be a prime opportunity to bring back in the Masked Predator again, because we're probably going to be doing comparisons a lot in this review. Yes, indeed, the terrain is exactly the same. There's nothing really that's been changed to it. Even the places where they've painted the green on the original seems to be also carried over on this one as well. Now, this one talking point I know is looming at the back of my brain, and I'm probably going to mention it a couple of times. If this is the Unmasked Predator, certainly a nice touch to be seen on the display base end of things is I would have loved to see some little dripping beads of fluorescent blood, the fluorescent green blood that of course the Predators are known for having. I mean, again, if this is the Unmasked Predator, you got to believe he's near the end of the film and about to battle Dutch in one final brawl for all. Why not have a few little droppings of neon green blood splattered across there? I suppose I probably could just simply take a paintbrush, take a little bit of green paint myself, and do the same thing I'm talking about right now. It just certainly would have been a nice touch, even to have the little cut on the side of its leg where you could see a little bit of dribbling of blood. Certainly would have been a nice touch. But as it stands, certainly looking at the two side to side, again, there's nothing really that's been changed to the display base. It's exactly the same, and it's also exactly the same that it's hollow underneath. Again, you're probably not ever going to be looking at this part of the statue, but it's certainly just to show you that costs can be saved by still presenting a nice looking figure by keeping the bases, for example, pulling away a lot of the plastic that's unnecessary for a lot of these gallery statues. I mean, really, again, you're not going to be looking at all of that underneath. So by keeping this hollow, it's one of the things that they can do to kind of keep the costs down. When you release these actual figures, these gallery statues, which tend to be around a $60 to $80 price point. I had perhaps thought that the Gauntlet blades have been increased in length on the newer Unmasked release. And yet, looking at the two side to side, it seems the length of the blades are exactly the same, so there's nothing, again, that's been changed there. These are made of course, very thin PVC plastic, so you want to really be careful that if you are putting this on display, that these, if anything, don't get clipped, banged, as these would certainly break right off. Some nice, real interesting paint that they've added to this. Primarily, of course, it's just the silver, but just a simple fix of adding that dry brushing of black certainly does bring out all the details incorporated into the Gauntlet blade. In fact, really, there's a lot of cool elements of paint that's been added to this piece. More and more we'll be looking at this as we get closer looks at the figure. Now, probably, obviously, the big thing that you guys want to see between the two is how the masks, the unmasked to the masked portrait, how they differ from one another. The hair doesn't seem like too much has changed. The plasma caster blaster sitting on top of its shoulder also doesn't seem like much has changed either. In fact, again, all of it seems like it's a carbon copy from one another. Simply just, again, one is masked, one is unmasked. It's entirely your preference as to which way you would want to go. Putting, again, this one down just for the time being, I feel I'm probably going to just kind of keep it in the frame so you guys can continue to kind of look at this one, and then behind it, in its background area there, you can then certainly compare the two with the unmasked. That's just, right in the background there. So having a look at the head sculpt here, one of the biggest things that changed to this is the unmasked portrait of the Predator from the end of the film. You can see that it does have the extended out mandibles. This one is a little, what I thought might have been warped. Going back and perhaps watching the film, these don't all extend at the same. One does change and one can move independently from the other. So it does make some sense that the mandible doesn't have to be as far down on here as it is on this side right here. The face I find is generally quite dark, perhaps maybe too dark. I like the colors that they use for it, especially the crown along the top of its head. They put a lot of cool details added in there, this speckling of this dark brownish gray. You can see these nice little details that airbrushing also has been added nicely to it as well. I feel perhaps like the eye area is a little too on the dark side. They've airbrushed some additional dark paint, covering around basically along the area of its mandibles, all around the sides of its eyes as well. Perhaps it may be too dark. Maybe keeping it just a little bit around the eyes and keeping the majority of the color. Maybe even if they had kept this color on the side, the area right above its mandible, if they had kept that the same colors as perhaps up here, it wouldn't look too dark. Certainly not as dark as it appears right now. The lower mouth, this section of teeth down below, is also very hard to make out because they've kept the colors really dark on that. I feel probably, if anything, they probably could have increased and made these a little bit brighter in paint scheme than what they actually are. Overall, not a bad looking head sculpt when it's all said and done. One interesting thing about this particular head too is if we spin it around, you'll find some out-of-place hairs, these dreads, of course, that are sticking up. The interesting thing about it, if you spin around the back of the figure, it seems like these are actually different from one another. They aren't in the exact same place, which I guess would make sense. This is, after all, a brand new head, after all. But it is interesting the fact that the dreadlocks located on the back are placed in different areas, that they're not exactly the same from one to the other. Other things, again, I think I probably would have wanted to see on this particular release, again, being that this is a variant to the other one. While the colors are really good on the body, the legs, and the armor that's on its body, again, I feel like they probably could have added some additional of that blood. Maybe blood on, for example, the blades, its own blood perhaps on its arms, the sides of his face. Something that just makes it look a little bit more battle damaged than the clean and pristine Predator that we're seeing right now. He does still have also the necklace of skulls and the spinal cord that's wrapped around its neck. That was the exact same on the masked version as well. Other than that, again, that's not really much else that's changed between the two. The colors are seeming to be exactly the same. I felt as perhaps that this one right here was a little bit lighter in colors, but I think the more and more I look at them, the color schemes seem pretty identical to one another. I would have to believe perhaps these are hand painted. I'm not 100% certain of that. So maybe as each of these statues, one person's version of the unmasked predator may differ slightly, perhaps than the one that I have right now, like the airbrushing around the biceps section, the section around its torso, for example. Again, really nice details incorporated into this gallery statue release of the Unmasked Predator. You've got the little cracks, for example, and visible damage marks done to the front of its chest plates, as well as some additional detailing done to its shoulder as well. All those grays, the silver I talked about before, all have, again, that additional dry brushing of black, so you can see all those details standing out. Perhaps it would have also been a fun treat to see this open up with a visible readout, a countdown perhaps, of the eventual doom, of course, that Dutch will face if he doesn't clear and run free from the Predator's path of destruction. Love to see if maybe if they had opened this up so that you would have seen the countdown on the Predator's arm. Other than that, though, I mean, again, these are all little small things that I would have certainly loved to see with the new release of the Predator. At the end of the day, it's still not a bad-looking Predator when it's all said and done. Personally, I feel maybe the colors were a little bit too dark around the areas of its eyes, that the eyes seemed to get lost a bit. I would have added some additional blood, perhaps not its own blood on its blades, and its own blood on the rest of its body, so that it would differentiate a bit from the one that we had already gotten before. One good thing is certainly if you've already picked up this one, there is still that difference between the two. The poses are the same, the bodies are the same, of course the base is exactly the same as well. So the only thing, again, separating the two is the different head portraits, but that's enough, I feel, that you could put these on display side to side, and you've got two cool looking Predator gallery statues in your own personal collection. For Diamond's release of their unmasked Yautja, or Predator PVC diorama statue, here in Final Looks, I wanted to show you guys the back of the box, as they did use the exact same image that they used for the Jungle Hunter masked Predator PVC diorama statue. That's a mouthful. Gotta imagine they probably just used the exact same box. Why change it, after all, when it's simply just a variant to the one that we had gotten before? Nothing really changes on this one that we haven't already seen on the other one. The same base, the same body, the same pose. No, the only thing that really differs this one from the one that we had looked at was that this one is unmasked. And I feel with that, there's a window of opportunity that Diamond Select didn't take. I feel, being that this is the way that the Predator looks at the end of the film before he goes to final blows with Dutch, why not incorporate some battle damage to his body? It wouldn't have involved even changing out any bit of the mold. They could have easily just added blood on its body, blood all over the base that he's standing on top of, and maybe even blood a little bit on his face as well. But still, that's probably something I could probably go in and just touch up with a fine paintbrush and a little bit of green paint. The head sculpt, being it's unmasked, is decently presented here. The darker colors around the eyes feel probably they could have pulled that back a little bit, as there's not enough contrast around the areas of its eyes. It's a little too dark for my liking. One small touch is that I like with the flicked up dreadlocks on the back of its head. I like that they're in a different placement than the one that we had looked at with the masked Predator. I don't know why I enjoy that so much, but I like the fact that it's not exactly a carbon copy from one to the other. Overall, again, nice looking statue. Something certainly I mentioned in the final looks of the Jungle Hunter masked version was that I felt if they had the mold available, why not release it simply as an unmasked version? And I can't imagine that Diamond Select was listening specifically to the wordings of this humbled reviewer. But as you can see, the proof is in the pudding. We did get ourselves an unmasked Predator, possibly even for an SDCC release when that eventually happens again. Maybe down the road they could release the exact same masked Predator in the thermal vision colors, giving it the heat signature colors that he has in the film. That would be certainly a nice touch, or even a clear version. There's definitely a lot of mileage I still think they can make from that existing, the first Gallery Hunter, Jungle Hunter Predator PVC diorama statue. Boy, that's a mouthful. What do you guys think of this statue? Let me know down below in the comments section, and which one you actually prefer of the two. Do you like the unmasked version, or do you like the masked version? I like reading your comments down below. A big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select who made this review possible by sending this sample my way. Today we were having a look at the new Diamond Select. This was the Predator Unmasked Predator PVC diorama statue. If you guys are new to this channel, liking the content you're perhaps seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below. And also while you're down there, why not move on over to the bell notification so that when you turn that on, you can be notified of all the new videos that I'm coming and putting up on a regular basis. Videos, by the way, on this channel are presented at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want to know when new videos are coming onto this channel, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Regular, round the clock. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. Let me know what you think of the Unmasked Predator down below, and I'll see you guys next time.